Yeah. This is for all you non-philosophizing black sheep, unwelcome, pushed to the side motherfuckers like me.
Fuck what they say. Tang gang, Atheist Your Way. Yeah. Fuck what they say. Tang gang, Atheist Your Way. Ha ha ha. Let's get down to business. These bitches got glitches. And you thought you'd dismiss us? Nah. Now I'm laughing in stitches. See, the problem be, it'll be a tragic travesty to come after me. So just know this is how we get down. Respect that shit like a pronoun, bitch. Yeah. Fuck what they say. Tang gang, Atheist Your Way. Yeah. And fuck what they say. Tang gang, Atheist Your Way. Yeah. Fuck what they say. Tang gang, Atheist Your Way. Yeah. Fuck what they say. Tang gang, Atheist Your Way.
Hello, hello, hello. I'm back 2 days in a row. That must be special. Maybe less waterworks tonight. Hi, y'all. Good evening. Good to see you all in the chat on this wonderful, beautiful, fantastic, fucked up 4th of July. Yay, Independence Day. I'm so happy and proud to be an American, especially as a young Black woman. So proud. You can see the excitement on my face. Anyway, but we're not talking about politics tonight because that's not what we do on Tang. But hi. Nice to see y'all. I see you. I know. Yeah. Lack of independence. Yes. Happy lack of Independence Day. Again, that's all the politics I'm doing. Trust me. I hear you, babe. Hi. Uncle Beck. I was on Rage's channel for about an hour or so earlier today. I know Rage is pretty much going open channel live right now, so we're in a bit of a competition. So if you flutter on over here, it's okay. No, it's kidding. Love you, Rage. Rage is the shit. Hi, Stephanie. Good to see you. CosmicKyle, that's little bro right there. Kira, nice to see you too. Aaron, of course. Mr. Christian, all the usual folks. This guy is new. This guy is new though. But I'm digging the fact that you are enjoying mac and cheese stuffed fried chicken with your kids right now, Oz. I'm sure someday I will be able to try such a thing. Very curious. Don't know how my stomach and or cholesterol levels will take that. But, you know, hey, it's good to try. Love you, babe. IQ, there you is. Oh, I saw a comment. You say you were in Pittsburgh over the weekend. That's awesome. Visiting family, just chilling in Pittsburgh. That's cool. I like that. And Theo, I saw you earlier. There you are. For president, I don't know. I tend to curse a lot. Plus, I'm an atheist. I don't think me and being a president would work. Actually, I'm not even old enough yet to be president. I'm 32. I got 3 more years. So I think the age is 35, right? It's 35. So I'm not even close to being even that qualified, let alone being an atheist. So, but hey, you know. But Black woman as president, yeah, we fucking needed that like 50 years ago. Exactly. I saw Aunt Jur. I see you, Aunt Jur. Hi, Aunt Jur. It sounds good to me. I love mac and cheese. Well, I mean, yeah, I love mac and cheese too, and I love fried chicken. I never thought, I mean, I've had them both on the same plate together, just not married, folded into one another. And my fucking fried chicken mind was like, how do you put two drumsticks together and mac and cheese in the middle? Like my idea of fried chicken is either wings or the drumsticks. But when I saw like the actual like chicken breasts, thinned out breasts, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So I'm still fucked up, to be honest. The Bilowitz. What up, Bilowitz? I text you back, by the way, young man, sir. You're older than me, I think. So, sir. But yet still young man. Yes. I am Bill Castle. Did not say Crystal. Bill Castle. Yes, 2 nights in a row. What a treat. Anywho, yeah, let's jump in right into the content. So I have a little something slightly different for y'all. Slightly. It's not really a dig on Jude 3 Project. You know, I'm always on their dick about that. This is mostly kind of like a bit of a reflection of how Black families and Black churches are now versus then. And this video comes from 1986. Yeah, I wasn't even born, so this is gonna be great. Um, yeah, it's from a, and it's so weird because I do actually remember seeing this podcast before, even though it may have just been exclusively out of Louisiana, but I feel like I've seen it. Like not this particular podcast I'm gonna show you, but I feel like I've seen the show, and it's called Folks. If you're from Louisiana, or if you've heard of PBS, which I'm sure everyone has, but if you've heard of a show called Folks that was developed in like the late 70s or 80s, then maybe it's familiar to you. But I ran across this because I was, going through YouTube, finding content, trying to find something not Jude 3 Project related, even though they have a lot of good, dumb shit. This one actually tailors more to home for me. And if you don't know, I am Black. Surprise. So me knowing the Black experience, living that, and of course, the Black church experience is unique to me and many of my other Black friends. And those that, have relatively gone through Black majority denominations. And like if you have, then cool. So you may know most of that experience too, but it's not so much heavily focused on that. What is relatively more focused on is how I've always spoken about the intertwining of Black culture, Black families, and the Black church in of itself. How it's so much more married and so close-knit and so a part of Black identity versus any other race or culture that I am familiar with. I know, shocker. You could almost say that I just tan really well to the point where I look like an African American woman, but I'm really am Black. So yeah, shocker. Bad joke. I know, I'm crazy. But yeah, with this, and I especially wanted to cover this, especially given like the things I have been kind of mulling over, talking about, dealing with. And if you watched my stream last night, beyond the boohoo tears, you would get a sense of idea of, how hard hitting and often problematic and troublesome the idea of Black identity wrapped in Black Christianity and the Black church and all that has been difficult for me to get past over my deconstruction process several years ago, and which lasted several years, and then just beyond that, and me officially deconverting up until maybe last year, where I could truly identify who I was as a person without faith. And it, like I had expressed last night, it took me 3 years after deconverting to kind of identify who the person I was, because of how the Black church and religion is so close knit and tied to each other. So I wanted to kind of, out of not just from my own mouth, display that and show that to you through the mouths of old preachers back in the 1986. Without further ado, let's jump right in. Oh, hey, DeAndre Black. Good to see you. I like seeing you. You're a good, I won't say a good face. I haven't seen your face, but you're a good name to see. So no, pleasure to see you. All of you, honestly. So yeah, let's jump right into it. And I lied. I didn't, I got lazy. It's fucking hot today. And my lack of Independence Day celebrating left me like in bed most of the day, lazy. I did bathe, so shut up. So I didn't connect my Stream Deck thing that I got from Oz, so my bad. I'll get to it eventually. There are other factors too why I just didn't have the mental state to tackle that, but you know, I won't touch on that now. That's more private discussion. But yeah. Let me just roll the video. Let me roll the tape, you know, as Robert Reed would say. Oh, and I'm not gonna front right now. This is the intro music into the show. I'm gonna play the fuck out of it because I'm not gonna skip past it. I'm just gonna play it through because I fucking love it, and it's just like that. You'll see. It's I love it.
What is the role of the Black church in fostering?
Just realized y'all can't hear shit. I can't hear shit. Hold on. Hold the fuck on. You probably can't, but I really can't. Something happened. Nope, that's on. Why can't I hear anything?
During the Black family? And can our churches survive without the Black family?
Hang on. Malfunction in the video, I think. It's like I hear it running, but it's not. It's weird. Hang on one sec. Ugh. Silly me. I'm going to test this really quick. Oh, that's weird. How come it's not? What's wrong with the sound? As my babe would say, uno momento. Ay, ay, ay. Don't know why I can't hear nothing. Oh, I think I know why. Oh, wow, that's weird. Hey, yes, ma'am. Good to see ya. It was working a moment ago. I don't know what the fuck happened. So, my bad. Oh, that's just mean. Okay, yeah, I played a whole different other video and it fucking worked. So, hang on. I don't know why that bitch won't work now. I was just fucking listening to it. Oh, that is fascinating. You know, you could hear it. Just jump at it. Oh. Okay, fine. I'll jump out and jump back into stream. Oh, that's weird. I'm sorry. Okay, fine. You could hear it. I couldn't. But if I jump out of StreamYard, won't I disconnect? No, that's not a thing. No, I guess that's not a thing. Okay, I'll be back. Oh, I'm a fucking idiot. Hold on. I think I know why I couldn't hear it. Hang on. Oh, fuck it. I'll restart. Okay. I'm a dumbass. So, no, I'm really not. So, this is why I couldn't hear it. I only have one AirPod in. Like, now I put my other one in. So, the video, for whatever fucking reason, the sound only plays. I don't know what you technically called it, the audio not monotone. I don't fucking know, but I couldn't hear it out of this AirPod that I had in this ear. So I put in both. And once I put in both, I could fucking hear it. Okay, yeah. That's my day. That's my night. Hashtag professional. Let me just test this one more again. Yep, I can fucking hear the bitch. Oh my god. Oh my god. I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. Yeah, see, I can hear it now. God damn it. Okay. Let's breathe. Let's start that again. Hi, Farron. Welcome. Thank you. See, now I'm getting more viewers, so I'm glad I haven't lost y'all. So appreciate you sticking around. Okay. I'm gonna get myself back on more. Mono, thank you. I thought it was. Okay. I appreciate it, babe. All right, here we go. No more fucking around. Fucking bullshit. Gotta get that shit right. Anyways. Sorry, cursing too much. Hashtag not ladylike. All right, here we go.
What is the role of the black church in fostering the black family? And can our churches survive without the black family? These are just two questions we'll examine today on Folks.
Don't be hating. I like this. I'm just gonna groove to it. I'm not skipping it. Fuck y'all. I can't dance for shit. Sorry. Look at the 1980s. So fun. Wish I lived there. It's almost over. I promise. Okay, now we're getting serious.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Folks. I'm Robin Hinton, News and Public Affairs Director. Sonia Massengill is taking a break this week. Today, we'll be taking a look at a very serious matter, and that's the black family. To put it simply, many of our black leaders and social scientists say the black family as we traditionally know it.
Yes, unfortunately, because it's mono and single channel, thank you, Theo, the volume is very low. So just either turn it up really high on your end, and then when I start talking, you can turn me down really low. So I apologize. It is if you go to the video by yourself, it is fucking low. That's the beauty of the 1980s. Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. So just turn up your volume better. I already maxed it out, so I can't help you.
Just falling apart.
Let's start over from the beginning. No, I'm just kidding.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Folks. I'm Robin Hinton, News and Public Affairs Director. Sonia Massengill is taking a break this week. Today, we'll be taking a look at a very serious matter, and that's the black family. To put it simply, many of our black leaders and social scientists say the black family as we traditionally know it is falling apart. Why is this happening? And what can be done to reverse what some are calling an already bad situation? Today, we'll be turning to the church, which has traditionally been a pillar of strength in the Black community, for some answers. My guests are two distinguished ministers from the Baton Rouge area, the Reverend L. Haynes Jr., pastor of Wesley United Methodist Church, and the Reverend Charles Smith, pastor of Shiloh Baptist Church.
It would help if I unmute myself. Okay, but as volume control purposes, just turn it up really loud once the video plays and turn me down really low. And I'll try not to speak too loud so I'm not hurting anybody's ears. So I apologize if the video is really low. It's a really old video. I want to stop it there just to recognize, like I referenced, this was done in 1986. I think around November when I saw the timestamp of the actual video or the actual description of the video. So they're questioning or trying to dive deep into the idea of the issue of the Black family and the Black church in the 1980s. I only know what history book tells me and what my parents have told me and what experience has led me up through, because I'm a 90s baby. I was born in the 1990s. So the dramatic differences of what you see in the Black church now versus then when they start to express it is interesting. And so, oh, is it your birth year? Oh, nice. This is what I was curious into displaying and wanting to explore with all of you, so you can all get an idea of the idea and concept of the idea, what the Black experience was then and how it is now, and how surprising it was of an issue then. And as they're kind of going through it historically, when they reference like the 60s and the 70s, it does make sense because that was around the time of the civil rights movement and everything. So I mean, they'll touch on it later on in the video, but a lot of references to how a lot of the ministers or preachers transform their roles into actual civil rights leaders, like, Martin Luther King, Jesse Jackson, all those good people. So, but during those times, as they will reference, there was a lot of how the strength of the Black church had changed or diminished slightly because of those people turning into activism. At least that's from the ministerial side of it. But they don't necessarily talk or touch upon the congressional side or the Congress or the congregation of the Black church as far as, or just to reference and say it was just a low group or population not being guided because of many of those Black ministers turning into Black civil rights leaders. But I'm getting ahead of myself. But I just found that part particularly interesting, and the inferences and differences of how it was a struggle then versus it is now. So,
Welcome to folks, both of you. Let's begin by taking a look at some numbers. The number of Black families headed by women has soared more than 100% over the last 15 years, and it's believed that 43% of all Black families are without a father in the home. And the number of Black families living with both parents has dropped from 58% 15 years ago to 41% today, while single parent situations have increased. As members of the clergy, do you find these statistics very alarming?
Dr. Smith, I'll react to that. No, I don't find them alarming. I think it simply relates to the statistical way in which the predominance of society views the Black experience, and that comes up with numbers. I don't think you can really gauge the Black experience with the numbers that come from the predominantly methodology of dealing with the Black family. I'm assuming that the figures are correct, but the response of the church is to look at those figures more than just casually and really get in depth to see whether those figures are related to the significance of the despair and despondency of the Black family. I think the Black family is strong. I think it's stronger as it's ever been. The statistical data, of course, relates to it, and there are some problems. I don't deny that. But I would like to take sometime maybe during this conversation a new method of looking at the Black experience, and particularly the Black family, not from the top down, which I'd like to say for some reason, because there are a lot of poor people at the top, not from the top down, but from the bottom up. And that is from a boy that I grew up in, a Black family with its relationship with grandmother, grandfather, aunt, uncles, and nieces, and everybody else was a part of a totality And it's a little broader conception than what may be what I call a family that's related only to father and mother.
So that's okay. So two things that I think are being kind of talked about and seemingly trying to address. So with the statistics that the host demonstrated was to show how many of first it was well, one of them was first was how many families have increased as far as single black homes, or how many mothers are head of those homes and as single black families. But then I think what this pastor is trying to argue is he doesn't necessarily think those statistics or numbers are wrong, and I'm sure they weren't. But the idea that it can still be misconstrued and you're not really looking at the actual experience of the black family, especially if they have relation to the black church, which, you know, I see the point in what he's making, but I don't understand why he's making that point. And I say that because, yes, the black experience for just anyone in general is different versus the white experience versus Hispanic experience versus Asian experience versus Irish experience, whatever in America I'm referring to. But I think he's trying to make the point that the black experience, whether or not those numbers are seemingly low, as if that's supposed to be a negative reflection, he's trying to comport that to say, even though those numbers are low, you're not really looking at what those families are looking like, especially if they're related to the black church, especially if they're church goers, because they can be perfectly fine just being in a single mother home, because black mothers are seen as head of households anyways, regardless if it's single home or if there is a father involved. And I'm going to say if it's just a paternal parent involved, because that would just be the black Christian standard. It wouldn't be anything relating to homosexuality or anything like that. So just to keep in context of this, obviously I don't agree, but just to keep in context of this. So, that black experience as far as being out of the church would, despite the low numbers, is still there is a better positive reflection because they're in the church, is what he's trying to demonstrate. And I think that's also what the other pastor is going to convey as well. So just keep that in your mind when they also speak about what comes first, the black church or the black family, and their reasons why one comes first over the other.
Let me get Dr. Smith right. What about those statistics? Do you find them alarming at all?
Well, I find them somewhat disturbing. Um, However, I don't think that they are reflective of the percentages of single parent families that you would find uh, active in the church. Whereas the overall statistics are probably accurate. I don't have any way of questioning them. Certainly, I would think that within the ranks of those who are actively involved in the church, you would have a much smaller uh, figure when it comes to single parent families.
Traditionally, the black church.
You hear that? He said you probably have a much smaller figure as far as the rate of there being single black families if they were a part of the church. That's key, because that's him instigating, I should say, saying that these figures wouldn't necessarily be true if more black families were of the black church. Because if you have more black church, you have better full nuclear families, it seems like. But that's the problem, right? Because that's just automatically saying without the black church, black families would be nothing. Black families would not be more whole in their purview. Statistically, I don't even know if that's true or not. I don't know those statistics. I don't even know if that's even a statistical if there is any statistical or empirical evidence to comport to what he says. But it would be interesting to look at. And if it's true, then fuck it. But you're positing a single idea or a tunneled framework to say Black families can only be successful and whole and have both parents involved, or just the whole extended family portion involved and complete, if and only if they're part of the Black church or amongst and involved in the church. I mean, that's one component to show you how heavy the church wants to keep Black families together and how much Black families and Black culture are so involved in Black churches too. That is a pushed rhetoric, and that's something I've always heard growing up too. You can't run a decent whole family without the church involved. Yeah, I don't know, Maya. I didn't either. Or maybe I don't know. Maybe we're not looking hard enough, Maya. Maybe we're not looking hard enough. But yeah, I would suspect he's talking out of his ass too. Anyway, we'll move on.
Has been viewed as a pillar of strength in the Black community. I wonder, has this role changed? And if so, can you tell us how? Dr. Smith?
Well, I feel as if the church is still a pillar of strength within the Black community. For those who traditionally um, involve themselves in the religious life and in the offerings of the church, I think that the problem has come with the fact that there has been a falling away from the church by certain segments of the community that I trace back to some of the changes that took place in the 60s. And I believe that the church is recovering from that falling away. I've noticed a definite change in the latter part of the 70s and in the early 80s. But I believe that you will find a substantial difference between the moral climate of people who are involved in the church, and this is reflected in the family life from top to bottom. But I think that some of the problems that we have incurred are directly related to a falling away from the church that took place with the revolutionary times of the 60s.
Well, okay. And this is kind of goes back to what I was talking about. If we all remember the 60s, if you were born, or if you know your history of America, that's when, pretty much that was the heat of the civil rights movement. It didn't start in the 60s, it started more in the late 40s and 50s, but that was pretty much the heat of Black culture then, or the heat of what was happening in America, period. The civil rights movement. And like I said, a lot of those ministers have turned into civil rights leaders. Some mostly well-known, some, developing the NAACP and all those organizations. And so he's referring to that falling out happened because those ministers stepped away from their pulpits and went out to the streets to fight for rights. Not necessarily saying that was a bad thing. Obviously, that was needed because we needed to fight to have our civil rights then. But the problem, unfortunately for them, was even though the Black church was seen as a support line, a lifeline for many back then, and I recognize that falling away, yes, great falling away, thank you, DeAndre, was because of that, a lot of people saw themselves out of the church and more into the streets to fight for those rights. And it took them a while, apparently, to recoup all those young folks or older generations that may have at that point died off to get them back in. And that's why he referred to, steady increases in the 70s and the early 80s at that time. So we get that. We get that narrative now. So where we start is the Black church was strong. We can say from slavery through post construction era, leading up to where the heat of the civil rights movement had started. It was strong population of Black people in the churches. The great falling off happened during, the heat of the civil rights movement and kind of rebuilt itself in the early 70s or the late 70s, leading into the early 80s. Okay, so that's where we can establish that there. So I'm wondering, if that's the case, how did those people bounce back? Why did those people bounce back? Because we can't honestly say that everything was just handy dandy and better after civil rights movement for Black people, because it fucking wasn't. Still, I wonder why those people fell back. And I think we'll start to see and understand why as I speak more of why we saw that bouncing back of individuals. And I think that gets into the heart of why culturally Black people struggle to relinquish Christianity so much harder than other races and other cultures and other groups.
Reverend Haynes, you're shaking your head in agreement.
Well, I would say that the strength of the Black church there'll always be a Black church, whether it be Methodist or Baptist, I don't know. But the situation in America that creates it makes it do three things that I think. One, it's the custodian of Black culture. You can't talk about Black culture without somewhere relating it to the church itself. Beginning with Black preaching, which is, I think it's at its best, is some of the finest expression of art.
I got too distracted by the chat. I'm gonna replay that part because this part is important. I'm gonna replay that.
In agreement.
Well, I would say that the strength of the Black church there'll always be a Black church, whether it be Methodist or Baptist, I don't know. But the situation in America that creates it makes it do three things that I think. One, it's the custodian of Black culture. You can't talk about Black culture without somewhere relating it to the church itself. Beginning with Black preaching, which is, I think it's at its best, is some of the finest expression of art form that America's ever produced. James Weldon Johnson, of course, already done that bit. But the great singers, the great artists, so that whatever you want to talk about the weakness of the church, it is still a place where if anybody really wants to know what Black culture is all about, he goes there. Secondly, it creates the values of the Black community. And that's
It creates the values of the Black community. Point 2. The Black church creates the values of the Black community. It creates who you not who you are, but whose you are. And if you're Black and you ever heard that in church, you know the fuck I'm talking about. It's not who you are, it's whose you are. It creates the value of the Black community, the Black church. Think of what those values are. I mean, we all basically know, whether you've been a Christian or any other belief or not, and prior to you being an atheist, you know what Christian values are, just on its head. And they're not that different from what Black Christianity values are. They're not that different. Probably they're even more so, even a bit stronger, just because of the close tightness of it being a part of your identity. But the bigger part of that, well, actually, I fucking just said it. I spoke ahead. It's the bigger part of that is so heavily wrapped in the identity. The fact that the Black church creates the value of whose you are. You are what your Black congregation counterparts deem you to be, or what the church deems you to be. You can't be individual or separate from that, because that is the whole point of its strength. That is the whole point of it being built up and being as strong as they think they used to be. and as they think they are now, which they aren't. And if we have seen any Pew Research statistics lately, those numbers, as far as more Black people expressing them as being agnostic or atheist or other, have slowly, but have been growing. Slowly, but growing. And if they were facing an issue back then in the 80s, I could probably fairly say that maybe it ticked back in their favor at some point. But that is even more so dwindling now. And despite what's ever happening in the news now, I think it still will be an uptick for us. It was so hard hitting. I just got to say, for me, when I first watched this, and I've watched it quite a few times, it was so hard hitting for him, especially this preacher, because he says a lot of hard hitting shit. And I'm like, God damn, okay. To hear and say how the Black church forms and builds the Black community and culture. I mean, I've always been saying that, and I'm sure quite a few like me have been saying it, but there's the proof in the pudding from a minister. The Black church has to be involved in the Black family. It has to be. And they think it's for good reasons. And sure, there definitely was back in civil rights movement, sure, for protection and safety and advancement of people, for education and food and clothing and everything. I do not diminish or minimize that idea of how important that was to Black families back then. I don't. But that was just for surviving. And to think that the Black church thinks Black people are thriving still with it, no, they're not. There's no thriving within the Black church. You thrive amongst people within it, but no. I think really you're just continuing to strive to survive by praying and waiting on the Lord or whatever. Because a lot of, I'm ranting now, but a lot of the programs that they'll mention as far as within their congregation, especially with the other light-skinned minister, it was great things that they held as far as programs to support their families and communities. Like they actually had legit, he mentions it and I'm getting ahead of myself, but actual programs that help scholarships and funding people and actually helping pay their rent. I don't think you see a lot of that now. And I could be wrong. Maybe there are certain small churches that do. But then a lot of the churches, like, Mormons, the the condition is that you have to be a part of that congregation to get that support. So, whatever. I'm getting ahead of myself. Circling back around to the falling off, isn't this similar to the effect of COVID, specifically in regards to the inability to indoctrinate because individuals aren't sitting in pews? Yes. That is another falling out. Absolutely. We've definitely have seen a falling out more due to COVID and other, factors too. But that is a big component, obviously, because we had to go through those shutdowns. My own family's church was shut down for 2 years. They were mainly virtual. And of course, you've seen other churches across the country that did not shut down or only shut down maybe a few months temporarily or whatever. But yes, for Black churches, for the most part, a lot of Black churches versus others stuck to restrictions. And a lot of Black churches have older members. So they lost a lot of that digital stuff, or they unfortunately passed away. Like, you will see my church now, it's not as filled as it once used to be. And it's an older population in my family's church. And a lot of them still do digital or try to, but it is not a lot that attend anymore. right, moving on.
Obvious because more recently, in recent days, we had on November 4th an election. There's no doubt what happened, the sensitivity of the black experience to what was for many in the black church, a real value, a real human value may have determined more than anything that election. The scholars that I know of are related to it. We have not developed a cadre of black scholarship that almost a humanistic scholarship. Almost all of our scholars are in the black church. The third thing, of course, it interprets the risk, these risks that you're talking about, and it sustains, to me, the family, which I agree with Dr. Smith, focusing upon that family, it becomes, the black church becomes a real important point where a single parent, if and there are single parents, can relate to as a kind of strength. So the black preacher becomes more than just a priest and his priestly function or preacher function, but a father. And it's those three things I think will always make the black church strong. And I agree, we got hit with an avalanche, but more recently, take the gospel song movement that has come swinging back with young blacks who are, seem to me, getting back, Dr. Smith, digging at the roots of our experience and coming up with a new language by which they can articulate and endure the world.
What do you say? Our black leaders, our national black leaders, are telling us that the black family, as we know it traditionally, is facing a crisis, it's vanishing, has reached crisis proportion. A couple of years.
Oh, they're always in our fucking crisis. It's reaching a crisis, y'all. The black family is going away. There's a crisis. There are single moms raising 10 babies. Where the black father at? Oh, Lord. It's always a fucking crisis. Why is it that a single family home is always considered a fucking crisis? And, they try to extrapolate what the fuck a crisis is, but they keep often just pointing to the single parent family and the single parent being the black mom. Why is that a fucking crisis? What's wrong with a single parent family? I don't see that's one thing I should have been more explosive about. Why is that a bad thing? You don't know what people's situations are that cause them to be single family homes. Maybe the father actually died. They didn't just escape out on him. Who knows? Maybe the single family parent home is not actually their biological kids. They could be adoptive kids in which that person is just being a good individual and raising adopted babies. Why is that a crisis? That's actually a good thing. You put a kid in a home where they can actually, have a roof over their head instead of, somewhere else. Why is that a crisis? I think labeling something a crisis, trying to be so inflammatory with it, but pointing your fingers at it just being single black women raising kids is wrong. Single parents, I mean, maybe they're in crisis in this day and age, this fucking economy and gas prices and shit, sure. But labeling that and saying and giving that a stigma is wrong. That is something I should have outrightly pointed out because that infuriates me. I'm not a single parent. I don't have kids, but I know of single parents and they fucking make that shit work. I don't think they're in a crisis. And I think also implying a stigma on those single mothers is just being ignorant. Because I feel like that's just a lot of what this conversation was in the beginning. And yes, thank you, OA. Anyway, I just had to let that out because I was like, wait, hold on. Can we just stop fucking implying that this is a bad thing, please? You don't know what the fuck's going on in families. Black church. As much as you think you may claim you know.
Years ago, I attended a summit in Nashville put on by the NAACP and the Urban League that addressed this issue. I'm wondering, is the problem as critical? It's been a lot of media attention focused on the black family in recent years. I'm wondering, has the problem, is it as critical as we are led to believe?
Well, certainly I think that the problem is critical. Whether it's as critical as we've been led to believe or not, I'm not in a position to say. However, I think that the church is addressing this problem in many ways that don't get publicized. I think that even in cases where we do have single family parents, that many of these young people are finding meaning and purpose for their lives within the church community. And you cannot just naturally assume because a child comes from a single family situation, or even if the child is illegitimate, that child is doomed to poverty and doomed to failure. I know of any number of instances where young people have found a place for themselves in the church. They have developed along lines comparable to children who come out of what we call, quote, normal, unquote, homes, and do very, very well in life. And I think that the church is addressing this problem in a very effective way by providing outlets and opportunities for these kids to assert themselves.
I want to talk a little bit about some of those outlets, but if you can tell us historically, traditionally, what has been the role between the black church and the black family?
There's no question the black family and the black church.
Because I'm going to like what this other pastor says, but I want to dive back to what that guy said. And I agree, DeAndre, they do feel change. They fear the change. They do. Because it's all about this. If you listen carefully, on top of addressing stigmats. Wow, I'm joining two words. As far as beyond addressing statistics of single black family homes and applying a stigma to single parents, even though they say they're okay and understand that, oh God, I lost my train of thought. But anyways, beyond that, I don't think, fuck me, I lost my train of thought. I think I got too excited about what this other guy's going to say and I lost my fucking, let's go to the chat. Let's do that. Probably. I lost my train of thought. I apologize. I wonder where all the black fathers could be. I wonder if there's a place where a good portion of black fathers are being prevented from being with their family. I know you kidding, but I don't know. My single dad ass is having crisis with his dinner and my single parent kids ass is being bottomless pits. That is a crisis. I agree with you, Oz. Thank you. And you're right. And you're right, Andrew. Oh God, I fucking wish I knew what I was gonna fucking say and I fucking lost it. Fuck me. I'm sorry. No, what's more important is what this guy is gonna say. So fuck it.
There's no question the black family and the black church is a traditional role. The black church in our situation comes first. In the American sociological scheme of things, coming out of slavery, there was the black church is the first family. And then the family structure then develops as a secondary thing. And
the black church is the first family. The black church comes first, then the black family. That's tradition. And that's what the fuck I was going to say. Tradition. Why is it that we're so hung up on this tradition aspect? It's kind of like this whole argument with the whole Constitution where, the whole right to bear arms and the striking down of Roe v. Wade where, more focused on the right to bear arms, where we're supposed to look upon some old ass white men back in the 1700s to say, this is what we should abide by for the rest of the fucking history of this country. Like, we cannot amend or change it. Tradition. The tradition of the Constitution says we do X, Y, Z. Again, not talking politics right now. But I'm addressing the whole idea of following tradition. Thank you. A tradition doesn't necessarily mean right. Fucking society, if we stuck with the tradition of pissing in a hole in the ground instead of adequate plumbing and sanitation, we'd be worse than COVID. I'm just saying. Tradition doesn't say shit about modern society. And today's society won't say shit about society 200 years from now. I hope that bitch changes. But back to what he said. Black churches come first. Black families come second. That is the tradition. That is the Black culture. Black families are nothing without the Black church first. I'm going to replay that a little bit again, and then I'll let him speak the rest of the way through so you can clearly understand why, and he explains why that is the case.
The traditional role, the Black church in our situation comes first. In the American sociological scheme of things, coming out of slavery, there was the Black church is the first family. And then the family structure then develops as a secondary thing. And for white America predominantly, they had the family and then the church, but we had the church. So the coming out of slavery, brothers and sisters found each other sometime at the altar where they'd been dispersed all over the country. And like a story that I like to tell about in New Orleans, where two kids sold in North Carolina, they met each other after the whole slavery period was over. And so the Black church then was that cohesive element by which held the Black people together. Then out of that became the learning of marriage and baptism. Long before the state of Louisiana recorded those baptisms, people come to me finding their Social Security, not so much from what they recorded in Louisiana, but from my baptismal certificates. And I guess Dr. Smith would say that. And thirdly, I think there's a new increasing awareness of our relationship of Black churches. Not that we're out on the island by ourselves, but we are interlocking and interrelating to each other, linking with each other to address this problem of the Black family. So that Shiloh and Wesley and other places that in our city will find ourselves coming together with a solid approach to this. And this problem has made us develop that approach.
So where did the changes come?
Let me unmute myself before I rant. Okay, so let's think about this. Of course, I don't agree, but let's think about this. So the Black church was first. So you got it. And this is before the family can be constructed. So this is the whole point of how Black families are constructed. This is how Black families are constructed. You have Black people, post-slavery. You build the Black church. The Black church, predominantly, let's just say Christianity, for the sake of argument. You build that Black church out of Christianity, and thus then is when you start to formulate your own family. But it is from the teachings and the traditions and the spiritualism and the religiosity and the traditions and all that stuff of the Black church. That's how you formulate Black families. They have to be constructed and guided through that in order to have a proper Black family. Starts with Black church first. That's how you construct Black families. So what are those traditions? Well, if you know Christianity, you know what the fuck the traditions are. If this helps you get a sense of how wrapped up and close tied Black culture and Black families are to Christianity, and why wherever the fuck you move, if there is a predominantly Black city and they ask you, oh, what church you go to, this is why. Post-slavery bullshit has given this stupid formulation of this is how Black families are to be seen as. This is why God comes first in everything in Black homes. For the husband, for the wife, for the kids, for anything. This is why during tithes, growing up, or what I was told when I started to become a working professional, is I need to budget my money to first budget enough of my tithes at the top of my budget list before I can pay any of the bottom bills off. And my family does that. They tithe first and then budget bills after that. Crazy, I know. I even had an example of one of my Sunday school teachers saying he often gives so much in a tithe, and his job situation kind of changed, and he still gave that much in tithes. I don't know what the amount was. I don't know what the amount was, but it was quite a bit, and had very little left over to cover his bills. And once he wrote that down and looked at it and looked at how much he had, he struggled, like had a spiritual struggle, in his words, to take away from his tithing to cover his bills. And as he sat on that and struggled with it, he still gave the amount in tithes he typically does give, and said, my bill is just going to lapse because God will provide. I'm not kidding. He said that. He went ahead. I'll put a fucking dollar on it. Let's say, and I'm not joking, this has actually been as much tithing amount as I know someone has given, $300. Let's just say their tithing amount was $300. And I know that sounds like a lot, but motherfuckers be laying on them hundreds. He went ahead and sacrificed $300 towards the church because he knew that God and Jesus will still bless him, even given the financial hardship he was facing, to not cover the rest of his bills, because he refused to relinquish at least a portion, if not all, of that money to cover his bills. That's insane. I'm starting to hear fireworks, and if you hear them, my bad, because they're going off a lot right now. God damn it. That's insane. I'll play them more of the video because the fucking fireworks are going off.
As far as the role between the Black family and the Black church, when did the changes start happening? Do we really go back to the 60s and blame it all on what took place during the 60s, or did it start breaking down before then?
Well, I would certainly say that there was a falling away in the 60s. I would describe it from the point of view of the many ministers during the 60s abandoning the traditional role of the pastorate and becoming known more as civil rights leaders. Of course, no fault with that because much good was done. However, as the civil rights movement progressed and certain other organizations became popularized, particularly by the news media, I think that some young people thought that the church had outgrown its usefulness and that this was the new Christianity. However, with the demise of those organizations, you found a return on the part of many people to the church, because there were many needs that the church was fulfilling that could not be fulfilled per se by civil rights organizations and things of that sort.
Yeah, so that's why. And I apologize, C Truth. I did state in the beginning, yes, this video is very single sounded whatever audio technical word. It's a really old video, and they didn't master it when they uploaded it to YouTube, so it's gonna sound low, unfortunately. So I just said I'll try to speak as low as possible to not blow out your ears. So just turn up your volume as much as you can so you can hear it. I apologize. I did see your question, Oz. Let me see. Given the ease of access to information in 2022, would you consider it to be refusal to look at the evidence of simple denial of data presented? That's a really hard question. But I consider it easel denial. Oh, okay. Consider it refusal. Well, if you are ignorant to doing proper research, God damn it. Yeah, it does sound like a war zone out there, Farron. If you're ignorant to doing proper research into things, I don't know if I necessarily blame you for not looking into the data of or statistics of anything, whether it be this or anything else, especially if you're older and don't use the internet. I don't know. That's all. Well, if you were not, no, you're fine. If you arrived late, you're good. Just that other warning. Hi, Bree. I see you, girl. If you know how to do the research and you've seen the data for yourself and understand and still refuse, then yeah, you're purposely trying to be ignorant, no matter the topic. If there was good evidence of not there being a valid reason why abortion should not be legal, then I would accept that. But I fail to see a good, valid reason of why abortion should not be legal. That I'm not talking politics tonight. Stop it. But refusal or denial of data that has been presented. Oh. Then yeah, you're being ignorant. Of course. If that stuff has been presented to you and you're refusing or denying it, then of course you're being ignorant. Motherfucker. Okay. More of the video because I can't talk while fireworks are going off.
So I think that there was a period when you had a falling away by many of our young people, but I think that gradually our young people have returned.
The talents of our black preachers were taken over to social organizations who took over the traditional role of the black church was. We fed people. I remember my father and Dr. Smith, your father, feeding people, taking care of their needs, their medical needs and whatnot. And then you came with this wealth of charity in the 1930s and the Rose Haleigh with the programs here in Baton Rouge. Now with the demise and the not funding those programs and they're back on level, the black mother, which is the black church, picks it all up again. We're feeding people again. We're clothing people. We're housing people. We're doing everything that we used to do. And that's bringing that black family. Every brother takes care of a brother. Every sister takes care of a sister.
I think this is where my problem is. And you addressed this earlier, DeAndre, about, you've pretty much fucking, if you feed them, they will come. This is where I both disagree and agree with this idea. I disagree because you are providing, you're basically feeding them into bringing them back into the church for whatever reasons you have. I agree we should support our surrounding communities, feed people, help them get off the street, help with homelessness, help with putting roofs over people's heads, help with I was gonna say abortions, help with adoptions, things like that. I agree with help supporting families. That's what your government should do. That's what society as a whole should do. I don't agree that churches should have that stronghold on people, especially if it's conditional to the idea of keeping them within the church, like Mormons do. Like you only get this type of service if you become part of the congregation. And I'm not necessarily saying that Black churches do this. Maybe some do, maybe some don't. I don't know enough about that. But there is a conditional aspect to all of that stuff, right? Like there was a means and reason for it back in the civil rights era. I see that. I recognize that. Now, not so much. So that society and times are different. I don't see the fundamental need of all that just to help support you trying to grow your congregation. Actually, I don't even see the heart in that just because you're trying to support and grow your congregation. And I agree. You're right. Exactly. That is exactly what the Black Panthers did. I just, beyond the clothing and feeding people, and I'll play a bit more of this and I'll end it here because it's already kind of touched and addressed my point of, wrapped around in Black culture and Black families. Holding on to traditions and saying that the Black family is nothing without the Black church and that statistics would be lower if more Black families were a part of the church is bullshit. You can't rightfully say that just because you're just spouting bullshit. You can't just say that. Just because you think you want people to be a part of your religion, you think they would be better off? No. I don't agree with you. And if your idea or issue is that there are too many single Black homes, then the Black church simply hasn't done enough to help with that either, have they? And a lot of times, especially maybe now, you still face a lot of stigma if being a single parent. Something went wrong, and you damn sure can't be a single parent and strive to think that you want a relationship again or marry again. You know how many older Black women that don't remarry or keep themselves single or strive to just be married to the Lord and are miserable? I know, I've seen it. Luckily, my mom wasn't one of them. But, I mean, now that she's a widow, maybe. What's going on? What? Bria, what? Oz? Is it okay for me and Jena? And what did you say, babe? There's always been. I don't know what to say. I love you guys. Okay. There's another point. I don't know if you already addressed it because I got a little sidetracked. But there's another point I want for one of these ministers to address, and then we'll end it here. God, I love you guys.
And I see that in many programs. Dr. Smith has an excellent one. Mine is very small, but we're back in business doing what the church did and does better than anybody else, holding Black people together in difficult days and difficult times.
I know my grandparents and great-grandparents often told me how their life was built around them. Even their social life was built around activities at the church. Are we seeing more of that today?
Yes, I'd like to introduce the term the church as extended family. And I think
Extended
that the
family.
church does serve that function more today than perhaps it was in the last decade. You know, many of the needs that the church supplies um, really address not only the religious aspect of people's lives, but the psychological, the sociological, and
Ooh.
we have found the totality of our needs being supplied in the Black church traditionally. And I think that the church really does, from a sociological point of view, serve as an extended family for uh, many of our people.
I'd like to say that you've got the middle class blacks who has come under great criticism in recent days. The middle class black family, what the family with that heritage, they are coming back to the black church. They are coming, seeing their responsibility to the black brother. I would say that if the nation came to a point, and I hope it will not come to this, where we would not find our kids getting scholarships or getting money from government or whatever, we'd go to school anyway because the church is getting geared up to meet that need. We've always sent kids. Many of us have our own colleges, Dillard and Xavier and Leland, who's been a great history in this state. We are determined to stay in business, and the black church is the key. And I think that that key, which has always been a part of our experience, is getting back. Well, maybe these programs, which were short ended anyway, 5 years, and they were over, and the old mother church, 120 years, 200 years after slavery, still going on, still putting out its talented young. They're not leaving it. They're coming back, finding because that's where their roots are, even though they may work in other kinds of agencies across the land.
I hate breaking things down in terms of black and white, but
Yes,
black and white is a reality.
yes, it is.
I'm wondering if the problems that we hear that are facing the black families, are they any different or any greater than the problems that are facing white families?
I would certainly say so because the role of the black person in our society is unique. So it only follows that the problems that they would be confronted with would be unique. And this is where the black church has traditionally played such an important role. You know, it's no secret that we are at the bottom end of the economic spectrum. We're the last hired, we're the first fired. Educationally, we are behind. And the Black church seeks to address these issues in many ways. For instance, to be specific, our church uh, has a full time caseworker that deals with problems of poverty, not just for Black people, but certainly we see more Black people than anybody else. We spend a lot of time dealing with the economic needs of our people in the community, people who can't pay their rent, who can't pay their utility bill, and what have you. But we haven't confined it to that. We have a federal credit union in our church that encourages systematic savings and that pays the nominal rate of interest on monies saved. But by the same token, we make loans through our church credit union at the unheard of rate today of 1.25% interest on the unpaid balance. We give scholarships annually in our church to express our concern about not only the financial aspect of receiving education, but it's a competitive thing to motivate young people to want to excel in the educational area. We provide a variety of motivational programs through our Board of Christian Education that will motivate young people to want to come around the church other than for worship experiences, but to associate and relate to one another. Hopefully, a lot of these young people will fall in love, court, and marry within the church. So we are trying in the church to address the unique problems of Black people, and we do think that they are unique, and we don't think that there's any other agency in the community that's really equipped to address those problems as well as the Black church.
I would think in the black church, if you want to know how unique the black church is, it's what the black church does with Jesus. That's the key. The theological or the Christological framework of here, the cornerstone of the black church is that Jesus teaches every child that you're somebody. No matter what you hear in the world, no matter what the test is or whatever the score. And that note is an underlying assumption that makes a man not just the ambulatory cases that need food and whatever, but that man who needs just that extra zest when he runs and confronts a racist society or problems of his own. He gets that internal direction that he is somebody in the sight of God. And if you want to really understand Jesus, you got to understand Jesus in the context. And I think where a great difference, as I've understood the white church, Dr. Smith, is to hear that tone of the center of is Jesus in the framework of what those who love Jesus, hospitals, schools, homes, doctors, lawyers, preachers, whatever they, the Christian contribution in that center, black preachers and black church laymen have taken that affection of which I don't think we can treat casually in the black church, keeps alive, and that is the center of our worship is Jesus Christ.
Okay, I'm gonna stop there. First and foremost, before I go off in my ending rant, Bree, fuck yeah, girl, congratulations. I'm not ignoring the side chat. I was trying to focus on the last bit just to make sure they covered what I wanted them to cover. But fuck yes, congratulations. You're already a beautiful butterfly. You're already gorgeous, all your own. And I'm so fucking happy, just like everyone else is happy for you that you finally take that first step in your medical transition. So fuck yes, girl. Congratulations. Do you, boo. Live your life. And I'm happy for you. I'm trying to hold back tears. I am fucking happy for you. So I'm so glad you are able to make that step now. Very fucking glad. And be proud of that. But and I'll put this back up because I start this for what DeAndre said. The black church is not a key. It's a lock. That is a great summation of this. Black people, Black families have been locked into this idea that we cannot survive without this faith that was pushed upon us during slavery times. And if you fucking don't know your history, then you know that was the fucking case. Why? Because the Black Bible existed, where they highlighted notions of slaves being obedient to their masters and rewriting all of most of scripture to tailor it to the obedience of Black slaves being obedient to their masters and stuff like that. So you can't tell me that wasn't a great manipulation. But and I don't know if this is just Black people trying to own that shit and be like, well, we can own it and this doesn't say this and we're going to be religious regardless. Fine. But don't fucking sit there and tell me that you are trying to help people thrive. Because you're not. Why? Because there is still hate and disgustingness through the Black church. And it's no different than any other congregation or church. No fucking different. It has locked us down to this idea that all we have to do to make it through our struggles and our experiences as Black people is to lean on faith. Don't pursue anything else. Don't be an individual. Be a part of the family. Be in the family. Never leave the family. I highlighted a lot of what I struggled with a couple days before I came out to Fort Wayne, Indiana for the Better Conference through the things my sister and my mother said to me. And besides the uglier parts, one of the main things was in reference to my idea of potentially and will moving out of California, is that I am breaking apart the family. I will be missing out on my only parent that I have left. I will be leaving the family. That's the same toxic ideals the Black church instills on Black families. You should never break up the Black church and the Black family. You should never break up those ideals. You are locked in with this family. Black people are forever, unfortunately, are locked in to the Black church. It is in our blood as a culture, unfortunately. And unfortunately, I think it will always be that way. But we can diminish it. We can strive to. I'm striving for that. I want that. Many greater, better speakers than me are pushing for that. The Black church is not the Black family. The Black church is not Black culture. It should have never fucking been. And this whole bullshit idea of it's whose you are and not who you are. And what I mean by that, because that was what I was raised up on, it's whose you are, meaning among the Black church, within that family, within that congregation. It's not who you are as an individual, because there is no individuality. Your identity is the Black church. Your identity is what we represent as a Black culture. And if you relinquish that identity, you are no longer Black. How many of us that are Black have heard that shit? You are no longer Black. You are foreign to the Black community because you don't accept religion. That's the bullshit we should stop. No one's identity, no one's self-care, no one's worth should be wrapped around in faith, no matter what the fuck it is. It should never be. Never. You are your own person. You should do whatever the fuck you want with your own life. It should not be tied around what your Black family or Black church family said you should be, or where you should go, or who you should be with, or who you should talk to, or how much money you should give to the church. Your identity is yours and yours alone. And that's unfortunately the struggle that myself and many of my other Black atheist friends face. Trying to fight against that, try to speak out on it. But as difficult as it is, I know we can get there. We shouldn't be tied to this old tradition of Black church and where we've come from and how we just need to stick together and strive above it. I'm all about building up a community. I'm all about sticking to people that want to be individuals. I'm not about being locked into a toxic society or community that will not allow for me to be my own authentic individual self. I lived that life. For most of my adult life, I lived that life. And I'm not going to do that anymore.
Yeah. This is for all you non-philosophizing black sheep, unwelcome, pushed to the side motherfuckers like me.
Fuck what they say. TANG gang, Atheist Your Way. Yeah. Fuck what they say. TANG gang, Atheist Your Way. Let's get down to business. These bitches got glitches. And you thought you'd dismiss us? Nah. Now I'm laughing in stitches. See, the problem be, it'll be a tragic travesty to come after me. So just know this is how we get down. Respect that shit like a pronoun, bitch. Yeah, fuck what they say. Tang gang, Atheist Your Way. Yeah, and fuck what they say. Tang gang, Atheist Your Way. Yeah, fuck what they say. Tang gang, Atheist Your Way. Yeah, fuck what they say. Tang gang, Atheist Your Way.